Many more details on Splatoon 2 have been revealed after an interview with producer Hisashi Nogami confirms single player and a whole lot more. What is going on, everybody? Myself and Gabe are here to tell you all about the interview that 4Gamer did with Nogami, and it really shows that I think Splatoon 2, we now can say officially, is a true sequel.
Closer to it, yes.
So there is a lot of good stuff here, and I think the primary focus has to be his comments on single player. They speak in Nintendo language, so he says things about, the Squid Research Lab is still researching it, but they plan to have the same volume of content as the original game. The campaign will serve to, teach players and help them boost their skills before jumping into competitive, and they want to continue to show the depth of the Squid world, similar to what they did with the Sunken Scrolls in the first game, which I think is great news, because all along I've said what this game needs, and what I hope it has most of all, is that campaign. That was one of the coolest aspects of Splatoon 1, and that boss battle at the end is, legendary. So, very glad that this is confirmed. Even though they're still researching it, it's confirmed.
I'm happy that it's, around the same volume. This isn't, some crazy, huge campaign. The best thing about the campaign for the first Splatoon was that it wasn't super overbearing or anything like that. You got in there, you did it. It was relatively short. How long was it? 4 or 5 hours, something like that?
Yeah, around there. And I think it's good that it sounds like it's wholly new, because there is a lot of iteration. It sounds like he talks about weapon types and stages, and says there will be new stages, there will be new weapons, but there will also be sort of modified versions, variations of old weapons, and same thing with stages. So I'm glad that single player is getting a whole new campaign, and for as simple as the world is, they did go into some pretty cool details about this war between the factions, and not to spoil it in case you never played Splatoon 1, but it's a pretty fun, a very Nintendo fun campaign with a cool little storyline, and I like this idea that the setting has evolved, because 2 years have passed in Splatoon world, 2 years have passed in the real world, so now in the last game, music was all rock and roll. And now they say it's going to have a twisted feel, because the young residents of the Squid world are listening to more advanced music.
Hey, Zachary, if we know anything about music, is that it advances through time and not deteriorates, right?
Same with sneakers. They say that the fashion and clothing will be evolving in the same way that Nike shoes have evolved, which I thought was a cool little reference there, as a big sneakerhead myself. And there will be some new colorways for old clothes. So again, in terms of the weapons and sort of more of the, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, more of the cosmetics or the armaments, it sounds like there will be some iteration and some refreshing and remixing, but at least the single player is going to be new. And they did talk about wanting to bring in new elements as the game progresses. So it sounds like another long-term DLC rollout. Nogami pointed out that he wants new players to have fun and old players to enjoy. So they're going to be, bringing you the base game and then adding in new weapons, stages, modes, things like that as they go. They also mentioned the potential return of Splatfest. Again, this is under research, but
the best part about the original game, Splatfest was cool.
Those are so cool. And
do you remember them all? Because obviously the cat and dog one was the original.
Yeah, cat, dog. There was water slides, roller coasters, SpongeBob, Patrick, rock and roll versus country, I think.
Explain what Splatfest are for those of...
Yeah, Splatfest were these really cool weekend events that you would basically join a team, and the team would be based on some either-or question, so cat or dog, rock or country, roller coaster or water slide, and then you would align with that. You would get a color, and you would fight as that color all weekend long. Everyone on each side would fight as that color all weekend long, and then they would sort of combine all of the points, all of the wins and losses, all of the score together at the end and determine an overall winner, and then those people will be rewarded with some goodies, some prizes, in-game prizes after the event. But they were a really cool way to sort of bring the community together and also focus mega matchmaking sessions as the game progressed well beyond the launch window.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting out of this article, they talked about the 4 stages that were shown in the trailer. Three of them, excuse me, 3 of them were new, while 1 has been refreshed. And I'm wondering how much with the multiplayer, how much is going to be refresh instead of just like new stuff, because like the little bit of Splatoon we've got to play hasn't been like super new. Like the weapons are relatively the same. You still have the ink roller. You still have pretty much every weapon that was in the original. So I want to see new weapons. And yes, they say that there's going to be some, but how much of the multiplayer is going to be like new, or do they just feel like, hey, like why mess up a good thing? A lot of these stages are already cool. Let's just refresh them and go that way. So I'm happy that the single player will be new. But in order for this to be like a true sequel, like you mentioned before, like I feel like there needs to be some differences with the multiplayer as well.
Oh, I think they will be. I think the 3-in-1 is sort of a good look forward. That maybe 75% new, 25% old, and granted, they still are going to have some of the simple weapons. Think about Call of Duty. You don't replace, there's not no machine gun and no pistol anymore. Just to try to make it new. Of course. And I think the dualies are a good window into the potential where some of the weapons now have almost like action moves associated with them. And they have all new supers, so old weapons will have a little bit of a new twist. We've seen the roller has a completely different
was that in the original game? Because you played it more than I did. With the roller now, when you jump, you can, like, instead of like a wide spread, it's a more narrow spread, but it goes longer. Was that in the original?
Yeah, a similar thing, but they did mess with sort of, and there's been comparative animations. It is a different, like, width and different length. So basically, like they've messed with / balanced the weapons to have a slightly different performance. It's not just carrying over directly exactly how they played. So I believe it was a wider spray in 1, and now it's a more narrow spray in 2.
Got it.
But yeah, so he says that Amiibo were really popular for Splatoon, so he definitely encourages everyone to keep their figures because he will make sure that they have a use in Splatoon 2, which is good. And they were cool in Splatoon 1 because they opened up level packs, which was a really, possibly the best Amiibo usage that we saw. He does mention online, which is interesting, talking about how you will be able to use social media to sort of start up a battle, create a little temporary community chat with voice chat, and then abandon it once you're done playing, which again ties into that whole overall Nintendo online infrastructure of, hey, find friends via social media, connect with the app, and then play, which still don't know all the exact details of that, but it sounds like it has some perks, to doing it that way.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a little bit weird because it's a like new way of like inviting people, and it sounds kind of weird, like inviting people through social media. Like it's not something that's ever been done before, so we'll see how it is in execution, and will it be annoying, like things like that. But I mean, it sounds cool.
Yeah, I think it. Let's be optimistic and see what they can deliver. He also talks about lag and says that transmission data has been reduced due to optimization, so there should be less connection errors than in Splatoon. They're working on matching players more closely based on communication quality, looking on making various improvements to that matchmaking process to guarantee that you have the best experience online possible. There is no Miiverse, but they're talking about adding some sort of similar feature to have interaction between developers and players. He also mentions a little bit about how they added this new map system, and they wanted to give you a 3D approach to the map, but also not give you too much ability. He talks about how on Wii U you can't see 2 displays at once, so you had to move your gaze back and forth, and they wanted to do something similar. But I just like the whole idea that they're so committed to this world being a real thing. And they talk about, like, yes, Squidworld is advancing, the Squid Research Lab is busy, hard at work. Like, I love their dedication to the fact that Splatoon and Squids and Kids is a legitimate place and thing. And I like the fact that, this is the first sort of confirmation that, hey, this is a really big, full thing and not just some, 1.5 or a port or a quick throw everything together to get it ready. But it seems like from the hub to the weapons, to the clothing, to the single player and multiplayer, like they are delivering what in essence is just as much as you get from an FPS or a TPS, new game, whether it's Battlefield or Call of Duty. What do you get there? Some new maps, some new weapons, some new armor / outfits, and a decent single player. And I love Splatoon 1 single player, so I'm thoroughly excited for this, and I just hope it comes out soon, because I think this is a real great one for Switch.
Splatoon 2 is like super interesting because Splatoon was an outlier on the Wii U. it did really well. It's a new IP that sold over 4 million copies on a console that didn't do so hot. So, like, it's interesting because if this does well, Splatoon 2 does as well as the original, like, they definitely just have a new IP on their hands that is probably going to be around for a very long time. But if this goes, I mean, and not to bring, like, other consoles and other games into it, but if this goes, like, the way of, like, you know, how Titanfall, the original Titanfall was very successful, and then the second one not so much. You know, I'm curious how this is going to swing, because you would imagine that a lot of people that are getting Switches for the first time didn't have a Wii U. Like, is this going to be a hard sell for them? I'm really interested.
Yeah, I think the success and the fun and the elongated life cycle of the first game points to this being a big hit, especially because you can take it on the go now. They've got local multiplayer, and in theory, it'll be exposed to far more people, provided the Switch does well over the course of its first year. And it's a nice early title to have, right? It's a strong base. This isn't like, oh, we're trying something brand new. I mean, who knows if maybe ARMS ends up being better than Splatoon, but Splatoon is much more of a known quantity, and one that I think can sort of be a nice hook and lure for people to come to Switch, because it is so fun. And if you can get everyone playing this everywhere, wherever you are, taking it with you on the go, you know, that adds a lot. Now, even if you don't have Wi-Fi, single player will satiate when you're in handheld mode, and I just couldn't be more excited. So give us the release date, give us more info. Cannot wait. We'll keep you guys up to date, and big thanks to everyone for watching today's update. Hope you are enjoying and excited. Switch is less than a month away, and we could not be more pumped. So until that time, everyone, thanks again. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with everything. And for myself and Gabe, SwitchForce out.